before the builder even comes, and there's variations and final accounts and all the upheavals and timelines. The foundations of the whole project are actually the design team, and how you choose the design team, what thought processes you put in, what type of person you choose, the consistency, the depth of the team, the alignment of the team, and even misalignment sometimes can be a healthy thing. It's unusual, but sometimes it can. So choosing the architect is usually the first step, not necessarily, but usually the first step. And to get preliminary drawings, to get a cost plan. Usually there's no engineer fully appointed at that stage. Architects usually work with they might have a bank of 2 or 3 engineers, and those engineers might have a bank of 2 or 3 architects as well that they call in for jobs. So choosing your architect, and style, disposition, language, personality, huge calmness, depth of jobs. A home project is a totally different animal, totally different beast to a commercial one. There are 2 different types of projects. I know an old lady, she's got a huge property portfolio. She's very, very funny lady, class woman. You'd know that she's a complete and utter class act, but you'd have no idea the amount of wealth that she has. Very understated, very calm, and she is most definitely of the opinion that there's 2 types of architects. There is project architects and there is design architects. And that's fine on a large commercial entity, but when she's doing residential work, she makes sure she gets somebody who does both, or has a practice where one does the design and one person runs it. You often find smaller practices might be husband and wife, and one of them takes one role rather than the other, and they overlap. So those roles and clarifications, those strengths, a good architect will absolutely love questions, engage with questions, give feedback, and there's loads of them, and I know loads of them. But that doesn't mean to say that it's about matching personalities as well. It's huge importance. I have been asked for architects. I work with 2 very closely, so usually, and one in particular, so usually I give that name out, super guy. But if it's in a different part of the city, or if, for example, I know he's busy, then I may look at giving a different name out. Or if he's in a small little enclave that has very high expectations, then and I know somebody who works in that neighbourhood, I may give their name out. Just like I do it the same as an engineer. I work with 2 engineers, 2 super guys. One is in Dundrum and one is in Dunleary, and I just do it on geography. Somebody's looking for an engineer, I just do it on geography. 2 absolutely great guys, offer slightly different services, so it's the scope of works as well. And then over time you start to see that engineer that I was talking about, one of them, now all of a sudden is a structural engineer for that architect I was talking about. So there is overlap between it. Alignment usually isn't an issue. We all get on very well. There's very little disagreement between us. The scope and depth of the services are huge importance. I'm doing one job, and the choice of the design team was based nearly on a buddy system, and while that may be cost beneficial, the reality in the long run it hasn't, because essentially it's information managing, and with the lack of information has caused stalls on site, gaps in information, gaps on their scope, gaps of the overlap of their scope has caused major disruption on site, because it was the remit and scope of their services was very limited. So that had to be revisited, it had to be expanded, it had to be coordinated, it had to be put into a sequence, into a regular sequence for the benefit. And then there's the design element, obviously huge. There's personal dispositions and alignment with characters. Architects, I've got huge respect for them. They are uniformly highly intelligent people to get through the course, gifted in what they do, especially architects that work in the small house refurbishments, extensions, tend to be very humanistic, built up, resilient, have a good sense of humour. So you really can't go 100% wrong with their qualifications. It's about alignment, personal alignment. I have one project where the guy had an architect, just wasn't aligned, just didn't feel aligned, couldn't say a bad word about the person, couldn't say a bad word about their work, couldn't say a bad word about their design, but he just felt he wasn't aligned. So referrals are important, information. Sometimes the sequence changes. Sometimes people will come to me first and ask me for referrals, ask me to get involved, which is really good, because then I'm involved at an early cost planning stage and I can put my input earlier. Sometimes the design team may only have minimal input and the homeowner may try to project manage it themselves with a little bit of help from me sometimes. So there's a whole configuration of it. It's complex, and yet an awful lot of times it's just pure gut, and absolute brilliant. Engineers, very practical, down to earth, funny people. I'm dealing with one female engineer. She's absolutely hilarious. Gas woman, very funny. I don't know what time she gets up in the morning, but there's always emails at 7 in the morning. She's very thorough what she does. So the choice is technical, it is personal, it is design, and then in some situations it may be good to even have a little bit of piece of independence. So I'm doing one project at the moment, and the architect is north side, and the homeowners are choosing to have conversation, and I don't know, I'm so busy, I don't know, will we actually work together? But homeowners having conversations and with me, and I'm suggesting that they don't align with the architect's engineer, and they get somebody who specialises in restoration work in Dún Laoghaire, Rathdown, because those engineers will have built up a bank of experience with people of the same disposition in vendors, in contractors, in subcontractors, and in the local authority, rather than somebody who is from another jurisdiction like Fingal or Dublin City. So alignment always doesn't mean taking the full team of a architect. It can mean you have to be strategically aware, and geographical awareness as well. And then that has an impact. If some guy is working within the neighbourhood, or a woman who's an architect, then they're going to know local builders in the neighbourhood, rather than somebody who's further out or in a different jurisdiction. So I would always recommend a local architect. I really would. I'd always recommend a local architect that is covering either the east, north or south of the city or centre of the city, who has done similar jobs, similar scale of price. I'm doing one job at the moment, and the architect is living down in Wexford. And the job's in Dublin. And site meetings are beginning to slip. You can just see slippage happen. You can just start to see slippage happening. Because usually what you'll find is, even though there may be scheduled weekly meetings, especially at the start of the project, a local architect will be dropping in and out of the project. 5-10 minutes, quick hello and gone. So that's my thoughts on the design team. Configuration of it. It's not always simple, it's not always linear, but it is best to be localized. Thanks guys.